Louise Casey, just a Baroness Casey as she is now. She had an interesting journey. She's now sort of super chair, isn't she?
She's the kind of misfixit of the government.
Yeah, she worked for the last lot.
Yeah,
she worked for...
Absolutely. She started in homelessness charities, didn't she? And then she was the homelessness czar for a while, and then now she's the anything czar.
Well, she was homeless czar, and then she sort of, I think, didn't she go out and get a bit drunk one night or something like that? Yeah.
Yes.
And nobody held it against her.
No, I mean, the thing is, she's a real person. She's not part of the blob, as it were.
So she worked for the Tories in terms of inquiries and the like, and now Labour have appointed her to lead an independent commission into social care. I mean, what are we doing with this social care? I remember when Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, remember the speech at Downing Street? It's the bit, I really believed this bit as well. He said, finally, you know, I will get to grips with social care. I thought, do you know what? He's clever enough, this bloke, whatever you think of Johnson, he's clever enough to get that box ticked as his legacy. He did nothing. I know that COVID was going on.
No, absolutely.
And that was a big sticking point. But it just seems beyond the brief of any government to sort this thing out.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, on the word legacy, because this is one of those issues that matters to families up and down the country. I can't think of a family that hasn't, faced the issue of an elderly relative who needs care, or who's worried about the potentially needing care and impacting them and their families. And so you'd think for every politician this would be one of those things that they would want to go down in history as the person who solved it. Now, I think that West Streeting does want to do that. When I heard the word commission, I groaned too, because this government, I think, has got a little bit... I mean, we talked about the absence at the moment of an inquiry into child grooming. It hasn't been...
If you want to delay something, have a commission.
Kick it into the long grass. This government's got into a bit of a habit of setting up commissions. So I was sort of groaning, and then there was this... The thing that Johnson was going to implement is the thing called the Dilnot report. So Andrew Dilnot, who was the chief number cruncher at the IFS, the old Institute of Fiscal Studies we all turned to, he was commissioned by the coalition to do this report on into social care. Came up with a set of conclusions that basically would cap fees that any family would have to pay, and then so that you would have to contribute, but there would be a cap, so you could plan your family finances. And then Theresa talked about. Cameron wasn't around long enough. Theresa talked about it. Then, of course, Theresa went. She had a problem with the sort of what was called the death tax in the 2017 election. Yeah, which then sort of that scared off politicians.
By 6 p.m. on the day she announced it, that was gone.
That was dead. No pun intended. Every pun intended. So, and therefore Johnson came in, but thought he had the political capital to do it. And then Rishi, as Chancellor, stopped him doing it. And then as Prime Minister, didn't do anything. So the government came in. It had the Dilnot report, still sitting on the shelf in Whitehall, gathering dust, probably quite a lot of dust on it by this stage. And then the Labour government said it wouldn't do it. So we thought, what the heck? What are you going to do about this? So now it's saying it's going to do this commission. Now, I have a little bit... I'm not keen on commissions. I have a little bit of faith in this because, as you said, Louise Casey is a bit of a misfixit. She's a kind of no-nonsense figure. It's not a judge they've given it to sort of spend 9 years gathering evidence. And what they say is that this is rather than starting from a blank sheet of paper, what this is to do is to bring together the Dilnot Commission, other stuff that's been done, sort of work out a plan and present a plan in a year. So they better do it, because if they kick it into the long grass, they will suffer. Yeah, indeed. Let's move to this. Officials have now said that the terrorist who killed at least 14 people on New Year's Day in New Orleans was definitely inspired by ISIS, but did act alone. Let's have a listen to what President Joe Biden said in a speech yesterday.
We're also continuing to investigate whether or not there's any connection between the New Orleans attack and the explosion in Las Vegas. As of now, they've just been briefed. They have not found any evidence of such a connection thus far. I've directed them to keep looking. The individual who rented the truck that exploded in Las Vegas also served as active duty U.S. Army. And the FBI is working with the Department of Defense on investigating, including the service members' possible motives and all those he worked with, who served with him.
That's the president, or at least for the next few weeks, on his response to that. We asked the question, Matthew, yesterday about how does the West, if you like, respond to these kind of, whether it's a nightclub in Orlando, whether it's London Bridge just out there, Manchester. How does the West respond to this? And there is a really regrettable response. You cannot ever fully guarantee that you can ward off or stop lone acts of people who are following a balmy idea, a lethal idea, because you're fighting someone's thought process.
Absolutely, and we've seen
How
that.
do you do that?
Absolutely, and we've seen that in America. When it first happened, we thought that it might be actually on the other sort of side of the political fence, as it were, because we saw with the Oklahoma bombing, sort of 30 years ago, when a guy sort of full of crazy ideas against the federal government, blew up the federal building in Oklahoma, and that was hugely totemic in American sort of attitudes to their government. So I think it's impossible, and I think we also have to make sure that we don't let these people win by overreacting the other way. I mean, we've got a thing coming in which is called Martin's Law, which is the mum of a guy called Martin who died in the Manchester arena bombing. Has been campaigning for this, Martin Heck, and this is now the law, which is basically any venue with which has events for over 100 people now has to have in place an anti-terrorism plan. Sounds good in theory, but on the other hand, it means your bag is going to be searched. We've all been in to theatre, to gigs where your bag is to do that, and frankly what they're looking for is if you've got a bottle of, you've got a mini vodka in there and you're going to affect the bar taking, more than they are likely to find a bomb, because in the 3 seconds that they're looking in your bag, that's all they can find. Have you got any glass in there? As you know, we've all been asked that question. So I think sometimes the reaction actually is over the top, and in a sense I worry about we can't let them win.
It is, yeah, it's that freedom thing. I had this, I went to see, as you do, Disney on Ice the other day, and it was
a good Christmas thing.
Adam, our producer, finds this hilarious, and so, I find myself all smiles because I'm going to see the Disney people, and before I know it, there's a man looking for my fluffy Mowgli. I know that's what he's doing. He's got his hand right in there, and he's determined to think, has he already bought his own merch with him?
Absolutely.
Because I look like a big Disney fan.
You do, you look like, yeah.
He's got...
My mind is now running over, yeah.
He's got a Dumbo ready to release at some point. But yeah, that is part of it now, isn't it? That you are searched, and we kind of relinquish a bit of freedom.
And it's going to get worse because of it. I mean, or better, depending on your point of view, because of this new law. And, I used to deliver Labour Party leaflets to their family home because they live near my mum. I mean, so it really brings it home. On the other, so yes, it sounds like a good idea. On the other hand, is it really going to stop somebody?
Someone who's determined, indeed.
Exactly.
Let's finish on sort of a lighter note. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, has released the trailer for her 8-part Netflix series. It's called With Love, Meghan. Let's have a look.
I'm going to share some little tips and tricks. I see what color I gravitate to, and everything goes from there. And how you can incorporate these practices every day. That's what you want. You want that shape and texture. Come on. This is about connecting with friends. I love that we're doing this together for the first time. Making new friends. That is so good.
We're family now.
And just learning.
Look at how much honey we have.
Do you believe in love?
What a lot of old shocking nonsense, eh?
Beautifully done there.
That's Meghan's new show.
Yeah,
I don't know why she's doing this show.
Well, I mean, so they've got
lots of money.
Yes, well, they've got this deal with Netflix, haven't they? So they're working out their contract, as they say in the biz, I believe.
Oh, that's still part of the existing deal.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. What I particularly love is that when you see the cake making shots, Angelica, do you remember that from the 70s? That sort of green sort of stuff that served no purpose apart from going on top of a cake. She uses that. So I'm not sure she's at the cutting edge. I actually watched Fanny Craddock, and we're just about, the kind of hilarious British cook from the 60s and 70s, whose husband used to come on with the wines.
Yes.
Available on another channel's iPlayer. Absolutely hilarious over Christmas, and it just struck me that I think she's an unintentional new Fanny Craddock, i.e. she's going to be laughed at more for laughing at her than people are going to be watching the rest of it.
Do you know, I can tell this on air, and I was only telling the guys this the other day, I don't know if this is an urban myth about Fanny and Johnny Craddock. Do you know the donut story?
No.
They were apparently, she spent that particular show making donuts. And it came to the end of the show, and she said, that's the recipe for how you do it. And then Johnny looks at the camera and says, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Good luck with the cooking. I hope all of your donuts turn out just like Fanny's. Now, I don't know whether that is...
It wasn't, but I only saw the Christmas special, which are in 15-minute segments. I have to say, her stuffing of the bird, I'll never unsee.
You'll never I'm going to have to look for this now. Fanny Craddock, good Lord.
But I fear that, she's... I mean, let's face it. I mean, she hasn't made any of that food. It's all absolutely ludicrous, and I'm not sure it's going to do anything.
There's a lot of posh people in a very big mansion.
Exactly.
Having extravagant food.
Very American food.
With a backdrop of opulence.
Absolutely. Although one thing is, there is a shot of a Victoria Sponge who is she trying to send signals that she, you know, it's like trying to build bridges with Britain by going for that, not a carrot cake or a
I will not take this show seriously until she whips out a Mr. Kipling's.
Oh,
when she does that.
What's your favourite?
Well, I don't think you can knock a Mr. Kipling's apple pie, frankly.
Ah, you see, my dad was obsessed with Mr. Kipling's Country Slices. Divorced parents. So the only thing that was ever around when I went round on a Saturday afternoon was a Mr. Kipling's Country Slice.
And, of course, I'm partial to an iced fancy. Who isn't? Matthew, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Matthew Laza with us here on Talk. Back with more from you in a couple of moments.